What's up, guys? Welcome to Swap Motor Live, and welcome to this week's episode of Inside SML presented by our friends at O'Neill. After a weekend off, RedBud Motocross is set to go off this weekend on 4th of July, but we have a lot to discuss, from injury updates regarding RedBud, some silly season news that I've kind of confirmed during the break, and then a factory rider contract termination. So let's get into everything. All right, we're going to start off with the biggest news of the week, which just dropped, I think, 30 minutes ago at the time it's recording. But Max Anstie and the Monster Energy Star Racing Yamaha team have agreed to part ways and terminate their contract early. This is some huge news, and this is really all because of the World Supercross Series that's set to start in about a month and a half. So Max Anstie, obviously reigning champion, has voiced that he wants to continue racing the World Supercross Series and defend his number one plate. Monster Energy Star Racing Yamaha, though they've kind of supported him in recent years with the bike and whatnot, they've basically decided that they're not going to. Obviously, we know that they're supporting Cooper Webb with a bike for only the first round. Expect Webb to switch manufacturers for the remaining rounds of the World Supercross Championship. But yeah, they basically told Max Anstie that they don't really want to support the series anymore or support Max racing that. Max obviously really wants to race. The series really wants Max to race. And yeah, they have agreed to part ways. Obviously, Max Anstie got hurt at the opening round of the Pro Motocross Championship in qualifying from that gnarly crash over the Dragon's Back, if you will, at Fox Raceway. But yeah, Max has been since kind of recovering from that. He was set to return, I believe, at RedBud was initially the rumors, and doesn't look like we'll be seeing Max at all this summer anymore. So kind of crazy. Lewis Phillips from Vital MX just did I think it's like a 40-minute interview. They're good friends, so I'm sure there's a lot of insight in that interview. I'll probably go check it out and see what Max has to say. But yeah, this all kind of makes sense when you zoom out and look at the bigger picture. I know Pipes is still looking for a rider, so maybe Max can go race for PMG Suzuki for the World Supercross, but I'm sure regardless he'll find a home, whether that's on a Suzuki, maybe a Yamaha, or some of the other efforts that are racing that championship. All right, let's get into some more news regarding this weekend at RedBud. We have quite a bit as far as injury updates. Let's start off with the Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki crew. Unfortunately, the bad luck streak, if you will, or misfortune for Mitch Payton's squad continues, and even for Seth Hammaker. Obviously, he's had some heartbreaks over the last couple of years, but man, we all saw the crazy, awkward loop out from him at High Point, and that has indeed, which we feared, resulted in some sort of shoulder injury. If you remember, Seth had a double shoulder surgery last year following the conclusion of the SMX Championship. He raced a majority of last year with bum shoulders. Unfortunately, I don't want to speculate, but there's not a whole lot of info in the Cairoli PR. But yeah, it does sound like he re-injured one of those shoulders and has to, I would imagine, get another surgery. I don't know why else he would miss the remainder of the season. But yes, Seth Hammaker is out for the remainder of the 2026 Super Motocross World Championship, which is a huge bummer. Obviously, before that crash in the moto, he was, leading the championship and doing great. So, really big bummer deal. As far as contracts, Seth is basically set with Mitch Payton for another year, so he can go next year in 2027 and throw another wrench into things. But as far as 2026, it's over for Seth. And then Enzo Timmerman, another brutal crash at High Point, concussion. He's going to sit out again this week. And I would imagine we'll see Enzo back at the races. There's this whole try out or make your effort and worth known to Mitch Payton thing going on right now between a lot of guys. Enzo being one of them. Obviously, he's on a Team Green deal, but he wants a pro ride, and there is a spot open for 2027 with Mitch Payton. So I would be surprised if we don't see Enzo back at the races at some point in this Pro Motocross Championship. But the other thing is Cameron McAdoo has been wanting to ride. Yes, he's basically been told that he's not coming back to Mitch Payton's crew for 2027 from all accounts that we've heard. But, I mean, if they need a rider because Seth's out, maybe they let Cam race despite obviously going somewhere else following the 2026 season. But, yeah, I would expect either Enzo or Cameron back at the races, probably by Southwick. So we'll be interested to see who, and we'll let you guys know as soon as we get a little bit of a pulse on what's going on there. Moving on to some announcements for the Lee Designs RedBud Ducati factory racing effort. Antonio Cairoli, this was talked about, man, it feels like 6 months ago now, but if you forgot, Antonio Cairoli is going to race this weekend at RedBud, as well as Southwick and Millville, like we've seen the last couple summers. So awesome to have Antonio back at the races. Interested to see how he does. Last year wasn't too great for him and the team. I believe they had a bike malfunction one of the times we saw him. So obviously the Ducati effort has come a long way since last year, as well as the bike and technology and everything. So I would expect some better results. But again, it's been a while since Antonio's got some gate drops. So excited to see how Antonio does. But it is going to be a full rig, fuller than normal, because Antonio's back, obviously Ferrandis, and then Justin Barcia is also going to be back this weekend at RedBud. There's a weird thing going on right now where RJ Hampshire has basically inked a new deal for 2027 with the Ducati guys. Justin Barcia, obviously, the relationship with him and Troy Lee, they get along great. You would expect Justin to stay with the team in 2027, but his contract's up. And then Dylan Ferrandis, his contract's up too, but he's got an auto renewal, I believe, for top 5 in points, and he's pretty damn close. So things are going to get interesting. Justin probably needed to rush back to racing and try and prove his worth and get something for 2027 because Ferrandis is likely to get top 5 in points, get that auto renewal, and who knows, it could either be Ferrandis and RJ next year, or maybe they pull some strings and get 3 bikes and let Justin stay on the team for 2027. But yeah, going to be interesting to watch throughout the summer how Ferrandis does, how Barcia does, and maybe get some rumblings around the team on what they could possibly do with budget and support in 2027 for maybe 3 riders. And that brings us to some silly season updates. Yeah, we've made videos, I think, last month or so talking about Garrett Marchbanks, his contract extension with the Monster Energy Kawasaki guys. I don't think that's going to be announced officially till October. But like I just mentioned, RJ Hampshire, it sounds like he's signed a deal with TLD Ducati for 2027. And then the other big one that is kind of from the same family of RJ Hampshire, that Rockstar Energy Husqvarna effort that's being shut down, Malcolm Stewart. A lot of rumblings about Mookie were linked to PMG or HEP Suzuki. Although there wasn't really any confirmation, it just made a lot of sense. It sounds like during the break, that's kind of been confirmed. Just from people I've been talking to, it sounds like Malcolm was meeting with people and team personnel linked to the PMG group, maybe visiting some people that are associated with PMG to see how things are going. But yeah, it sounds like everything is all but signed, or maybe it is signed with Malcolm Stewart and PMG. So I would expect to see Malcolm Stewart on a Twisted Tea Suzuki, maybe a Progressive Suzuki, depending on if he brings his Rockstar sponsorship onto the Pipes Motorsports Group team. Another thing I was talking about on our Kickstart podcast this week, I don't see why Malcolm maybe doesn't start this relationship sooner rather than later, maybe as soon as possible, so he could possibly race a couple of the World Supercross rounds with the team, get used to the bike again before making his debut with the team at Anaheim 1. So, yeah, a lot of moving pieces. Going to be interesting to see what all happens there and when things are announced. On that note, real quick, I will say I also kind of confirmed BarX is indeed going to go to Husqvarna's next year along with AEO KTM. So both AEO and BarX will be on Husqvarna's and take advantage of the factory services lease program. Not only are they going to get factory services motors, WP suspension if they want, but also I think this is more of a big ticket item for the BarX crew. They're going to be able to house their race shop, if you will, out of the KTM headquarters in French Valley, California. So if you think about it, they get a race shop building right next to the factory guys. I mean, a bay away from Jorge Prado and Eli Tomac's guys. makes a lot of sense. So going to be exciting to see how that all shapes up in a couple of months. And before I leave you guys off for this week's episode of Inside SML, our friends at O'Neill unveiled their 2027 gear line this week. So if you haven't already, be sure to head to O'Neill.com. Check out some of the sweet kits. I know I am really liking some of those new Mayhem kits. I'm probably going to place an order when I get done with this. But yeah, if you haven't already, go scroll through all the new colorways and designs. They did a great job this time. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let's get ready for some RedBud. I know I'm missing racing after a weekend off, and I'll see you guys next week.